I would say that the first thing is really to understand what's the problem.
Okay.
Because everyone has the same interest, right? So we all want the success of a company. If you're hired in a company and if you're frustrated and complaining, if there is people fight, it means that people care.
Yeah.
So I think that I like joining an organization where there are fights, because if there are fights, that there are some people that do care about the success of the company.
Hey, Timoté, how are you doing?
Good, you Anna. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. Pretty. I'm also like very, very excited because we generally work and talk to a lot of these product managers, but would love to understand the founder's side and the CEO side of running a company as the product person out there, right? So yeah, I mean, it is going to be like super interesting to have a chat and go deeper into your work. So yeah, just to probably get started with, I think the first question would be that can you talk about yourself a little bit so that our listeners can understand like what kind of background you come from and what are you currently working on and stuff like that.
Yeah, great. I think a lot of people recognize themselves in my background because, of course, I never studied about product management.
Okay.
I have master in human resource management from a Belgium university, and then I started working as a recruiter for a year.
Uh-huh.
And while working as a recruiter, I realized that doing recruitment was really boring, and especially because in a recruiting agency, especially in the IT sector, it's also about selling, and
Right.
they forget about doing repeat business and a bit longer term. And that was really frustrating. So, and that's where I really had the chance to join a very early stage startup called Talent Square. It was a recruiting software.
Nice.
And I must admit I had to harass a bit the CEO to get the job. But eventually I got hired as a product manager in a very early stage company. So when I arrived, it was just an empty box.
And this is which year we are talking about? Like, what was the year at that point of time?
Yeah, and you see, that's exactly where I learned, and there's different paths one to take to become a product manager. One of them is actually the one that I took, is that having industry knowledge, and helped me to start my product management career. Okay. So I was a recruiter for a year. I had I got some good networks. I understood the work of a recruiter, so it was easier to build a recruiting software. Then I eventually stayed there a couple of years, and I became then company bankrupt, actually. Ooh. And I took over the asset of the company. That's how I became the CEO of Talent Square. Oh. Then stayed there for a year, and then eventually I took another head of product role in a scale up. Then I joined even a bit larger company up until 2 years ago, when I decided to step in and do that consulting firm. Yeah. So for my background, if I have to summarize, I've spent 12 years working as a product manager, mostly in startup, ranging from not making any revenue to 30 million. I never went from 0 to 30, but I did 0 to a couple of 100K, and then a couple of 100K to a couple of million, and then 20 million to 30 million. And that just happened in a year. So I live a bit of all the experience.
That's amazing.
And then I created my consulting firm.
Oh, nice. Very interesting. I think that's like, it's like you're living like everyone's job over here, right? You have lived, you have just lived like right from starting from an HR, position to, going into the sales and marketing side of things, and then moving to a founder. I think this is like the right quality to say like you are actually a founder in that sense, right? Because they let you do anything and everything to get things run. Super cool. So I see like you have variations between, working in a product company versus now you are into a consultancy firm, right? What do you see is the biggest difference between these two worlds in general? Like when it comes to, let's say, product management or maybe as a CEO, how do you look at these two, segments of work, right? Because service-based is more like you get projects, you go very linearly in nature, where you will have some requirement from a company that you need to achieve these kind of stuff. Whereas I think product goes more cycle in nature, where you sort of, build something and then again you go back and iterate and stuff like that. So how does that work? Or in probably in Dualoop, you sort of go end to end on all of this, or like, just would love to know your thoughts on working on a service
No,
based in a product role versus working in a um, product company in a product role. So yeah,
it's a good question, but to answer that, I have to explain you a bit more what we do at Dualoop.
for
So
sure.
we're really considering ourselves as a consulting firm.
Hmm.
If I really have to summarize, we have two main activities, but
Okay.
I'll simplify it to make it really understandable by anyone, but it's blended, of course. So in the truth
Okay.
that both are mixed. But
Right.
we have from one side pure consulting. So
Yeah.
we have companies asking us to structure or restructure product departments or to
Right.
intervene in a subset of the product lifecycle, like helping people to ramp up into discovery skills and other. And
Okay.
everything we do also training, and we also do coaching. So we would do
Mm.
online, of course, online coaching, sometimes also on site, but it would be individual coaching of a couple
Okay.
of project managers, or individual contributors, or CPOs. And we also do group coaching. So that's more the consulting side. And then we
Okay.
also have a part with more staffing. So we hire people on our payroll, so they are
Okay.
Dualoop employees, and then we place them into organization for a longer period of time.
Right.
Usually it would be
Oh.
months, and then it would be full time. And
Okay.
all our consultants are really trained the Dualoop way. So they have coaching sessions every week or every 2 weeks. They have
Nice.
intervision sessions, and then they also work a lot into producing our own material. So our
Okay.
methodology, our framework, all our material that others will use is produced internally.
Nice. Okay.
So when you ask what's the difference? Well, it's a different position. When you
Okay.
are a leader I used to be a head of product CPO into startups. You're already blind and you're limited to the potential change that you can bring,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have always to fight against politics. And
Mm.
the thing is that there is in French we say sometimes nul n'est prophète dans son pays. So it means like you're to be a prophet or to be a listen, you have to come from the outside.
Mm.
And
Of
it's
course.
clearly something that we feel. Sometimes
Nice.
people are just reaching out to us, and then we step
Ah.
into an organization, we bring
Mm.
things, and then we have
Mm.
people from the product team that are sometimes frustrated and say, I've been
Right.
saying that for years and nothing's happened. You just arrived from 2 weeks and you change things. What am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? I'm saying,
Okay.
you're not doing anything wrong. Just
Yeah.
sometimes people want to have the proof, and they want to have
Yeah.
want to hear it from others, and that's really where we step in. Is really help empower organization from the outside and bring our knowledge. Naturally, as we're doing that for 2 years now, we have accumulated a lot of experience and a lot of things, so we can bring with this come with the storytelling.
Got it.
Now, when we bring someone that is on our payroll and would work a longer period of time into an organization, that's a bit different, because when we do consulting, we don't exist in the organigram. So we're
Correct.
nowhere. We just we step in, we advise some people, and then we disappear.
Right.
When we step in for a staffing gig, when our consultants stay for 12 months, the person is fully integrated into the organization, so they really act as a product manager or head of product or CPO, and it really depends. We staff a bit at all level, but then they take an operational role in the organization.
Right.
And the role is very similar, but the difference that the consultant is part of two organizations,
Oh.
us, Dualoop, and the company where they are working.
Okay.
And we are there to coach the person. So we are coaching them, we are supporting them, creating the material and the content so they can really do the job the best way.
Okay.
But they act as a product manager, whatever is the level,
Right.
within the organization.
Right. And like just to understand a little bit on the sort of the structure that you've created for companies is basically you recruit people who are what kind of people? Like, are they like product management enthusiasts, or are they someone who are looking to do consultancy with other companies? Who are those people? Like, what kind of people that you sort of recruit and sort of then deploy into like different companies?
Usually they are product managers. We covered both roles, product managers and product designer. When I say
Okay.
product manager, they could be product owner, product manager, and
Okay.
product designer. They call the different say
Nice. Yeah,
sub definition of the role.
for sure.
But usually they have between 3 and 16 years of experience.
Oh, that's a lot.
And there are
Yeah.
there are some people that really want to step up their game, and that are either frustrated to let their career only in the end of one
Right.
company,
Right.
but sometimes frustrated because they don't learn.
Okay.
That's the number one reason to join us. Just because they
Got
want
it.
to keep on developing themselves and they feel that they are limited by staying into only one company, or they
Right.
are sometimes the only product manager or the small group, or where the practice is not great and where there is no knowledge sharing and no personal development. Then the
Got it.
second reason are people that already went through a couple of years or 6, 7, 10 years in product management in operator role,
Right.
and we want to share. And
Okay.
then they join us to take more leadership position and to help more junior product managers to develop
Interesting.
their career.
So you're saying that if someone is, let's say, even if someone wants to, let's say, jump to product management, they can basically start learning with you folks, and then you can also help them to get a job. Let's say, you,
So
or is it not part of it?
we don't work with juniors
Okay,
at the moment.
sounds good.
The main
Okay,
is we only take people with 3 years product management
all right,
experience.
all right.
Sometimes we take a bit more junior profile, but the only when we have a strong relationship with the customer where we can make things happen, because that requires a lot of help from our side. The reason
Okay.
why we may in the future develop more an academy or a school,
Mhm.
but to be honest with you, um, product management, as it's a new field,
Mhm.
requires, it can be intense.
Okay.
And to get your first job, I think it's always good
Okay.
configuration where you can really be fully dedicated into one organization, because there is a lot of things to learn. It's not about learning about the product management practice.
Correct.
It's about being in the middle, in the center of a spider web, and
Right.
it's about understanding
Having
and
those,
being
different
good with
parts
all
of
the
it.
stakeholders.
Hmm.
Exactly.
No,
And
yeah.
that's easier when you are in an organization.
Right. Right.
But
No.
I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
we're working on that
Yeah.
and to think about how we can develop that, but we still don't have the answer.
Yeah. I think it sounds like a great model, because let's say if someone is working in an organization and wants to also explore, like, let's say, new startups that are there, right? And just to understand what is going on over there, I think consulting becomes a great medium to learn what are some of these amazing companies that are out there and probably work with them. I think this is something like pretty cool to sort of have that another opportunity in your hand that you can actually work with, sort of Dualoop to explore the other side of the world than the job that you're currently doing. Is it what I'm getting it right?
Well, if you look at the product landscape, and
Yeah.
I'll just take the assumption that the world is pretty much the same. So from what I see, we have top-notch companies
Okay.
like the best-in-class tech companies that have a product management training program. They would have their associate product manager program where
Right.
they invest a lot in you, but that's the 1% of the firm and the
Okay.
companies on the world. And
Okay.
then you have the rest of the companies
Yeah.
where you have no one in product
Yeah.
management. Maybe you
Correct.
have a team of 2, 3, 4
Correct.
product managers,
Correct.
but most of them come from different background,
Right.
have limited product management knowledge, and it's most of the time it's their first job as a product manager. So how
Got
can
it.
they
Yeah.
develop an
Right.
environment where people can learn and develop and become
Interesting.
better at their job?
Interesting.
And that's the biggest struggle in the product management industry.
Yeah.
So players like us
Yeah.
help to compensate that
Yeah.
in two ways, either by our consulting side, because when we come in and we help them,
Right.
either tricking some people or
Right.
taking some the best one
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
first they want to develop and own, then
Yeah.
take them, reinvest
Hmm.
into them, because
Got
that's
it.
really what our value proposition has. Both sides as a consulting firm. Let's keep in mind that we do not exist if we don't have consultants.
Correct.
So we have to fulfill desires, expectations from both our customers and our
Right.
consultants.
Right.
And as a consulting firm, we start from the consultant and not from the companies, not from the needs that are on the market. So we have first to find the right consultant. And our commitment toward them is to build a career accelerator program. So what we do is we
Got
invest a lot. We coach them on a weekly basis. It's either with me
Right.
or either with another C-level person. So they have 1 hour product management coaching. Then they have
Okay.
group coaching, we call intervention, every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Plus, we ask them to read a lot, produce content, and share that content with others and create community of practice.
Oh,
So
nice.
clearly, if someone stays with us for a year or two,
Nice.
it's a quite intense, let's
Makes
say,
sense. Yeah.
scholarship in product
Yeah.
management.
It's
Well,
it's like
paid.
yeah, it's like you're up leveling the person who is actually working with you right now. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
that's really
And
what
like let's say the kind of companies and obviously the companies that you're dealing with, you might be getting a lot of these consulting, companies coming in over there who is basically asking you for, let's say, the product management consulting as such, right? um, what 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 kind of companies are you looking at, and what do you think are the bigger problems that they're coming with? Where are they stuck? What is the state of product management in these companies? Would love to understand those insights. Like, for example, okay, there's this company type A which comes in and basically asks, like, okay, this is basically the problem that we are in, and then you guys sort of step in. So what is that initial problem that they come in with, and if there is some, like, deep insights that are out there, which companies are looking for when it comes to product management.
Yeah. So we historically we were more working with startups and scale up. But that's
Hmm.
more due to my network and let's say background.
Okay.
Now we cover both startup, scale up, and more corporate world. So
Okay.
we would have early stage startup. It would be a seed, pre-seed, Series A,
Okay.
stage, or an up to Series E.
Right.
And then we have also like bank and insurance
Hmm.
companies and more corporate pure players.
Interesting.
And their needs are certainly a bit different, even though I can clearly see some patterns.
Right.
When we look at consulting, number one reason is skills gap.
Okay. Is it like they don't have those kind of people in their organization right now, or
It's
is it
more
that?
that they
Yeah.
realize that they can't train them and they can't
Oh,
support their development.
right.
So startups scale up, reach out to us, say, hey, we have this product manager, we have that CPO,
Mhm.
but he's really stuck and isolated because we have no one that can help to
To give
keep
that
on
feedback or something like that, right?
and
Because
keep on developing themselves.
got it.
So that's the main reason for coaching. And
Mhm.
that's true whatever is the size of the company. We
Okay.
work with the large telecom companies in the UK. They have the same issue. So ramping up and upskilling people. And
Okay.
that's really a trend for 2023. Yeah? As you can see in the market, due to the global market of economic crisis situation,
For sure.
clearly people are trying to not hire. So naturally,
Yeah. The
everyone
consulting
realized that if
becomes
they
the
stay
way.
with the same people, it's probably better to upskill them. Huh?
Correct. For sure.
But,
For sure.
so,
But yeah.
I still feel sad that this was not happening last year because in
Mm.
2022 the reaction was very simple. Huh? We don't have those right skills. Let's hire more people. So
Yeah.
clearly that's changed this year.
But that's not
But that's what
how problems are solved,
no,
right?
that's not how. And
Yeah.
that's the number one reason. Then the
Yeah.
second reason is where there is clearly sometimes some conflict, quite often conflict between engineering products or between product and sales and helping to realign everyone. So working
Okay.
more the strategy and the design organization.
Okay.
The third reason is when there are some when organizations scale, usually they face a situation where they have to go from one or two, three product manager to much more, and that
Okay.
requires to review the way they work and operate because it's
Oh,
complexify the organization.
nice.
So sometimes we are called to handle this and to redesign the organization.
Okay.
And then you have the other reason is staffing. So you have some organizations that are sometimes limited in terms of either they can't find people because even though there is a lot of people willing to get a product manager role, there is also a lot of companies that are really bad at advertising themselves, or
Right.
sometimes there are some organizations that are more hidden gem. From the outside you believe that they must be really crap, but when you scratch a
Correct.
bit, you realize that they have quite some good
Right.
potential, but they struggle to find some people. So
Correct.
certainly
Correct.
that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Others in certain region, there is no
Yeah.
local offer, so they have to
Okay.
go abroad or find some alternative way to get some
Mm.
people.
Right.
And the third reason that it would. I'm only telling you the good reason, because there is
Yeah, yeah,
also a lot of bad reasons
yeah.
working with this.
We would love to hear that as well. I mean that's what the inside weather you're looking for, right? So yeah, go ahead.
Then the third good reason is where you're scaling quite fast,
Huh.
and then you're unsure about your future.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
because when you hire someone that's under an open-ended contract, you
Okay.
have also more commitment toward the person saying they will be for the long term. But sometimes
Okay.
you don't know, and
Right.
that's where it's safe. Alternative way is certainly when you want to upskill the
Okay.
organization from the inside.
Hmm.
Quite often, for example, we have some program where someone may reach out to us and say, "Look, we have a junior product organization," uh, and then they ask us eventually to do some coaching. But sometimes the organization is a bit too big, or it's better to show by doing. And that's where
Okay.
eventually we staff someone more senior that we know that after a year would disappear from the organization once the rest of the organization has upskilled.
Right.
And
Right.
that's where I'm saying that it's usually a combination, because quite often it's not only about consulting and only about staffing.
Hmm.
Quite
Hmm. Hmm.
often
Hmm.
it's a blend between
Yeah.
the two. Now
Like
with you, we
depending
help.
on the situation of the company, the problem statement is changing.
Voilà. So can you repeat your last question?
So I was saying like it's basically. So I was just concluding that it's basically the situation that the company is right now. Depending on that, the problem statement is changing, and whatever it takes in at that situation, you sort of come in and give that consultancy on those things, basically, right?
Voilà. Of course, there are some bad reasons. Huh? Some people
Yeah.
reach out to us and tell us, "Hey, we have delivery issue, and no, we haven't shipped anything for 6 months, so we have
Whoa.
an issue with the product team." I'm like,
Whoa.
I doubt that's really the problem.
That's a big problem to be in. it's like
But
the discovery is all like closed altogether or something like that. Okay.
most of the time, when this happens, because discovery is not done, or there is a
Okay.
misalignment of the strategy, or you realize that there are, priorities are always changing, and ultimately everyone is lost.
Correct.
It's really about the people skills, and that's really
Hmm.
the first job that we have to do usually, is to first explain and prove that,
Okay.
to help them then fix the real problem.
Okay. Okay. No, sounds good. Sounds good. I just would love to go back to that your second point, which was, let's say the company is in a situation where there's engineering going on, there is your sales team, and then you have your product team, right? Obviously, the product team needs to, talk to, let's say, sales to understand the customer side of the things and then accumulate those stuff. And then there is always a bigger vision where, like you just create that roadmap. Okay, this is the place that we're gonna in, right? So you said that there have been some situations where you have your sales, you have your product and engineering where alignment is needed, right? Um, if you have any stories around that, that would be one cool thing to understand. Like, okay, this was a problem, and how did you sort of went into and resolve it? Like, what was that method look like?
Oh, there is a lot.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe an
let me.
overview of, okay, this is how you sort of step in, and as a PM or maybe as a stakeholder, this is how you're improving that whole thing, which is the communication. Because I think PM's biggest job is to just communicate very frequently, communicate everything that they're doing and what all is happening, right? So yeah, I think that would be a great lesson to learn from you folks.
So I would say that the first thing is really to understand what's the problem,
Okay.
because everyone has the same interest, right?
Yeah.
So we all want the success of a company. If you are hired in a company and if you're frustrated and complaining, if there is people fight, it means that people care.
Yeah.
So I think that I like joining an organization where there are fights, because if there
Hmm.
are fights, it means that there are some people that do care about the
Right.
success of the company.
Correct.
So now it's first about identifying the common ground and understanding where the problem comes from.
Right.
Most of the time, the problem comes from misalignment
Hmm.
on either the company strategy
Right.
or misalignment at the vision level. That's a bit more embarrassing, but usually it's about the strategy level. And or sometimes it's about timing, because sometimes some people expect things, but they don't have the same timeline. If you
Okay.
think about the salesperson,
Yeah.
product perspective, always lives in the past, or should live
Correct.
in the past.
Yeah.
So it should only sell good that
Yeah,
already
yeah,
exists,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, they
And
are into that mode of selling, right? Matlab, at that point of time, you can't think of anything else at that point. You're like, can I get this customer or not? Like that's the biggest
voilà.
thing that they revolve around,
And
right? So
the
yeah,
challenge comes from a misalignment of strategy, because what they want is that eventually, of course, it's easier to try to sell dreams and think ahead
yeah,
of the
yeah,
roadmap. They have
yeah.
to
But
understand
then,
where
hmm,
have they been helped to better narrow and target and segment
hmm,
their
hmm.
customer base in order to take the
Mm,
right decision. That
okay,
most of the time isn't done properly. And
correct.
that's where managing stakeholders is key, really, to understand
Mm,
their reality and what matter to them,
right.
and realign them towards the bigger picture and
Mm-hmm.
building a timeline. And I'm not talking about the roadmap here. It's really the step before, just
For sure.
agreeing that things are as they are today, and
Right.
first help people to deal with the existing version of the product before
Right.
starting trying to align everyone in the next version. And that's
Correct.
usually the step that people miss. They always try to, you know, stop talking about the existing version of the product and try to
Yeah.
realign but what will come next. But
Correct.
ultimately,
So
what
true.
will come next will take still 6 to 12 months before taking
Right.
any effect. So you still carry, you're just carrying shit that stays there and
Right.
bothers you, and it's a bit like the mud that you have on your shoes, and you're still working with that mud, and you can't move forward because you're pulled back by people. So first address that, and then look at the future.
Correct. 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 No, I think this is so true. I mean, it's basically just go back to the basics. And I also love the point where where you said that everyone, if someone is fighting, is it's basically because they care about the product and they all want that success to be in, right?
Yeah, yeah, we've looked at that. If I can give you some example, huh?
Yeah.
Biggest challenge when we look at misalignment strategy and understanding where you are, where we want to be. Sometimes people tend to be to agree at the vision level for the company because it's broad and vague.
Okay.
Must be, because it must stay through
Right.
for a decade.
Correct.
So, but the issue is you stay there. You have a kind of what I would call a loose alignment. So it's everyone agree
Okay.
because it's so vague that everyone can have their same mental representation. And quite
Okay.
often they don't align at the shorted scale, or don't have a clear strategy on how they will go there.
Right.
Or they, or sometimes they are way so far from where they want to be that it makes it pretty much impossible.
Hmm.
And if you look at the time frame that is too long,
Yeah.
then the scope of what it's possible to do is too vague. And then someone will think we'll go toward that direction, another will go toward that direction. And then ultimately you're losing focus. So
True.
to give you some example, for example, I had an early stage startup.
Okay.
They had already a couple of customers.
Mhm.
First customers are tough to get, but it's easy and tempting to take whatever customer you can find because you want to generate revenue.
Okay.
And then they started, and then they thought they were aligned on who they were targeting. But their target persona was so vague that everyone could agree. But when we were scratching a bit more the surface and saying, okay, but you have already 7, 8 customers, and when I look, they are different persona. So which one
Okay.
do you want to pick?
Hmm.
They couldn't decide, and they have a very vague definition of who they were,
Who's
and
that?
have a
Yeah.
perspective opinion on what they were actually their job. So we
Correct.
did a step back, then we
Mhm.
rerun some
Right.
discovery interviews to
Okay.
refine and revalidate or invalidate their perception of the market, and that helped us to go down from 3 targets. Well, they told it was 1, but when we sliced down, we had really 3
Yeah.
different persona, and
Okay.
realized that we were at short term the best fit for one of them. So
Hmm.
we kicked out the 2 other, and then we
Yeah.
had to refocus the effort, and that really helped them to double their revenue in 12 months just
Correct.
by doing
Correct.
that exercise, taking a step
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. It's basically going like specifically in B2B, I think it becomes so much important to have that right ICP, that okay, these are the people, this is the demography, this is the kind of people that we're gonna sell. Like everything has to be intact with the vision that you're also building it to. Right? It's not
Yeah.
like if it, yeah. Go ahead.
And quite often there is a misconception about what is an ICP.
Yeah.
Because if you look at top down, you look at your strategy, if you look at your company vision, and then you look at your strategy eventually,
Right.
and if your strategy is done well, okay, that's another thing. But most of the time, it's not done well.
Hmm.
And then you go from your company vision and you define the strategy for your ICP at that level.
Right.
But then what happened? It's too vague. And indeed, you would define top down what would be the ideal person you would sell to. But are
Yeah.
those the one you should sell today?
Yeah. Or
Usually
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where you should define on the timeline, say, okay, today, who are the customers we can serve with a high level of confidence?
Correct.
What are
Correct.
the ones that we should serve tomorrow?
Right.
And what we will do to actually be able to
Right.
serve this second ICP, second, let's say, customer profile.
Right. Right.
And that's why if you take a bigger picture, that's why most of the time we say if you build a SaaS company,
Right.
first serve the small the small startup scale up ones because they are easy to get, they are open to try, and then only go to enterprise level sales. But even there, I have some customers that they go and they try to let's say try to convert everyone. They would say, for example, hey, we need to have we can serve customers that have any size.
Okay.
We can serve customers that have any particularities. I'm like, okay, sure, you can serve them, but
can you serve them today? Like the point is, can you serve them today?
And what if you sell?
Yeah.
And worse, what if you manage to sell to all of them? Because I can guarantee you that a company a small medium company where you would have one buyer and 3 users have different expectations from a company where you have 6 internal buyers and you would have 20 person having an opinion on how your product and your software should be run, because all of a sudden you will start dealing with notification issue, different roles, and all the things that take so much time to develop and don't bring any value.
Right.
And that's what people sometimes forget, because they're so excited and say, yeah, we close a big customer, and say, great, but is it really the right time for you to close that big customer?
Yeah. It's
a different.
Yeah, it's like if you get that big customer too early, it also like you sort of start building it for them, rather than if you go like step by step into going like, okay, can I serve this set of customers rightly? Then I move on to the next one, then next one, and then next one. That's how the scale essentially looks like, right? So yeah, I think this is so relatable. This is exactly the situation that we are also in. So yeah, thanks for telling all of this. So it is more of a reminder for me to go back and think around again on that part of it.
But I also understand, because when you are an early stage startup, that's especially true for early stage, but even later it still happens. That when you have a customer in front of you and someone reach out to you, you don't want to lose that opportunity. So naturally, you try to close, and I think that makes sense. But if you have to look at the longer term, you'll have to ask yourself whether it's the right strategy or the right approach. And if you do it, what will be the consequence? Because quite often people neglect to write down the decision and the why and the decision they will make, so that they can relearn and actually learn from that and take a better decision tomorrow.
Perfect. No, I think it sounds amazing. Now there are some fun questions that I have. I think this was deep down an amazing chat till now, but would love to go a little deeper into your life a little bit, right? So, what was that point where you felt like, okay, I am sort of into product management? Like there was this one epiphany moment was there or something like that? Like how did that happen? Like how did you got into like product management? If that story is there, would love to know about it.
I think what I like about product management is being able to be in the middle of the spider map. Just interact with everyone in the organization. You must be able to put yourself in the shoes of everyone, and being able to understand the job while not doing it, of course, because I'm not the sales, I'm not the marketing, I'm the developer, but I should be able to put myself in their shoes. So that's really the thing that I like the most. And certainly, I think joining a very early stage startup helped me with that, because you have to do like everything.
Anyway,
but the danger is that you can really get lost. And that's really the thing where where everyone has to be careful, because
Right.
being a product manager is about being able to do the work of everyone, but not doing the work of everyone.
Correct. Correct.
And that
Correct.
there is a thin line between the two.
True. True. It's like
But
you are sitting on top and sort of looking at everything that is going out there and just making sure that everything is getting
yeah,
executed.
it's about, it's about being able to help and spend some time with the marketeer to explain him what is the product today and where you see the value and what you should put
Sell.
or
Yeah.
highlight in this
Mm-hmm.
marketing communication. But it's not about writing a post. It's not
Correct.
about doing the ad.
Yeah.
It's about helping a sales to do better do his job, but not
Mm-hmm.
acting as a salesperson, because you need to keep that neutrality. But
Correct.
the part that I like the most is not necessarily about that, but it's also about aligning the stakeholders and help and being the person bringing everyone and pulling them toward the right direction by
Correct.
pushing
Correct.
them the right
Correct.
direction, while actually being only able to rely on your negotiation skills and leadership skills because you don't have any hierarchical,
Right.
let's say, authority to
Right.
to
Right.
push people towards this one direction.
Right.
So it's great, it's fun, it's challenging,
Yeah.
and sometimes exhausting, but it's
For sure.
so much rewarding when you manage to do it.
No, I think this is like amazing. I think this is again so relatable, because essentially this person is making sure that communication, as I'm again and again saying this, is that you basically tell everyone, okay, this is where we are heading towards, and basically aligning every part of the departments or every part of the pillars that the company has, like for example from marketing to sales to even the product and engineering folks as well. Sounds good. What are some of the cool things that you're working on right now? Like what is that Dualoop, or in your personal projects, in terms of things that you're working on? What are some of the projects that are going on over there?
So we work with a lot of I would say cool customers. If I can mention some, we work with a very successful Belgium company in the mortgage industry. So they try to digitalize the mortgage industry.
Right.
Pretty niche. But I like things that are really niche, because then you can really see the
Right.
value and you can go down and deep.
For sure.
I have to be careful to not offend some of our customers, because I wouldn't mention them now.
That's fine. You don't need to take the name. You could just say like, okay, these are the things that I'm working on. Yeah.
Well, they can listen to that and say, hey, why have you not mentioned us?
But yeah.
I would say the really cool thing that I'm doing now, so I can focus on that, really coaching a lot of companies, coaching
Okay.
the department, helping still to restructure and structure a department. That's really my key.
Yeah.
And developing some training program in discovery. So
Okay.
that's really something we're working hard on that, and developing our own, let's say, Dualoop framework, Dualoop methodology. So the whole company is really working on that to come with our way of approaching product management.
Sure.
So that's really the deepest things that we are working on. But then we have so many customers, and we have now 18 consultants. So I can't mention all of them, but we're doing cool things.
That's amazing. That sounds like you're working on scale.
Yeah, the cool thing of being of my position is we are
Yeah.
kind of being the. I won't say
Okay.
let's take that in brackets, huh? But
Okay.
the cool thing, the thing that I like, I'm still
Yeah.
coaching all of them. I have sometimes a bit a piece of the feeling that I had while being a head of product to CPO,
Correct.
because I can
Correct.
still coach 18 product managers and product designers.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like the largest product team that I can ever have,
Correct.
while not having to deal with the politics. That's a cool thing.
Yeah. That is also like a burning issue that you need to always look at it on from the top.
Indeed.
True. And like, what does your stack look like in terms of, when you're implementing things? What does that product management stack looks like for you, your team? Yeah.
That's a good question. I would say I would talk first about frameworks and product management approach. Not some always talk about framework.
For
We're
sure.
really a big fan of Marty Kagan, Teresa Torres. I would say Melissa Perry, another.
Okay.
So that's really the way we approach product management is really similar to whatever they would advocate for.
Sure.
Then in terms of more concrete thing, obviously we would use the tools like opportunity solution tree. We have developed our own discovery techniques and others. So that's the thing that we will develop. Then in terms of framework, of our more delivery framework, certainly Scrum is the most commonly used one. We have a couple of companies using ShapeUp.
For sure.
But our philosophy there is more to push people to really do well their discovery, and we're a bit more loose on or more less strict on the delivery framework. So we have certain customers that don't use any framework. So it would be like a Scrum band-ish way of working, but works super well.
Right.
So we try to stay agnostic from a delivery framework's perspective. We try to avoid safe, that definitely. But for the others, we stay really open. Then on the tools that we use, usually the most thing that you will see would be the Atlassian suite.
Okay.
So
the Confluence, Jira.
You have a bit of product board, less and less, to be honest.
Okay.
In Belgium, we have a rising tool that's called Cycle.
Okay.
It's cycle.app. They have developed a more discovery tool. So and they are getting quite some traction, and we've already implemented a couple of times.
Okay.
In customers quite successfully, to be honest. And Notion, early stage startup, most of the time use Notion for production.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't scale, but definitely not. So it works well up until 2 product managers, then you start having issues. But I have to face the reality that Notion has more traction than product board in early stage startup.
Okay. No, sounds good. I think Cycle and all of this are pretty new age compared to what Atlassian and that is like the other side of things. Then you have Notion, and Cycle is something which is coming up, right?
Yeah. Okay. But I think so. The cool thing with actually, I think the positioning is a bit similar to yours, with Olvi.
Yes. I think we both sort of started in the same line, like same time actually, and they sort of launched, I think, last year itself. Yeah, pretty similar to what we are doing versus what they're doing. So sort of into
I won't talk too much about them, but I will talk about the spectrum, and I think that's the revolution in product management.
For sure. Nice.
So discovery is essential, has been neglected quite often. It's difficult to collect feedback. Feedback comes from multiple sources. But it's essential to do good product management work.
For sure.
So and so they will hate me if I say that, but product board a bit disappointed me over the past years. They're trying to change, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But
for sure.
I was a bit frustrated because a couple of years ago they announced they would go in more into discovery, and they were heading into the right direction. And then they raised another funding round, and they started working too much on the enterprise level sales. So they started developing all that security layer and governance, and building multiple roadmap instead of focusing on the real thing, collecting the data and collecting the feedback. So I think that there is a gap on the market. It's great to see new players now, let's say, fulfilling it. Because that's where the truth. That's where the let's say
the core gold mine is basically.
It's the core of product management. It's the foundation. Up until 3-4 years ago, everyone was talking about delivery, where product management equal Scrum, and was only about having sprints and predictability in the sprint and building roadmaps.
Correct.
Luckily, that's changed, and now we're more focused on are we sure that we are delivering value? And what is value? And who are our customers?
Right.
So that's our dear questions.
Right. I think it has gone more from execution to this is the problem that we're solving. For that, you need a lot of discovery. You need like UX research as the central part of it. And then, you start building once you have defined the problem, and then move towards, this is what we need to deliver. Right. But I see what you're saying is that earlier it was more about the pace versus now it is more about solving that right problem in general, right? I mean, that's the
Exactly.
mindset that has moved on to. Got it. Got it. Anything, any recent learning, any recent epiphanies that you found like, okay, this was the mistake that I was been doing. Now it's like, this is the realization I just got into, is that any tip that you would love to talk about in the sense that from your learnings in general when it comes to product management, like what is that mistake that you made in the past and now you are very conscious about it and sort of, make sure that it doesn't happen again? Is there
Yeah.
anything like that?
My frustration quite often was trying to change organization too fast.
Okay.
And
What does that mean?
sometimes too fast when, quite often I've been reached out and called to join an organization, and my mandate was to restructure product department and shape it to be ready for the future.
Okay.
But changing an organization is first about people. And what is important to understand is that every change is difficult for people to accept because you're changing their reality. And you first make
Okay.
sure you must first make sure that you understand that well to define the right change pace. And the second
Oh.
key learning from those past 2 years especially is that there is as many product departments and department shapes that there are organization to have a product department. So
Okay.
there is no one size fit all approach. There is no one way of doing product management, and
Okay.
that's why let's be realistic. I love Martin Kagan, and I think that what he has brought on the market
Yeah.
is pure gem, essential. He's aligning people on the vision of what should be product management.
Okay.
But he's talking about the 1% of the company, right? So the best in class, and there is still the rest, as he say,
Yeah.
the 99 other percent. But we have to face a reality. We're talking about the bank or the insurance or large companies being bad at doing product management, but
Right.
still they are the most successful companies on earth. And
Right.
they are staying, whereas you have good, great startups that may be approaching product management per the book on the right way, whoever
Right.
would have to, and they're
Right.
still dying and are
Yeah.
not making and not generating any revenue. So it's important for everyone to keep that in mind and understand that even though within their organization things can be improved, it
Okay.
doesn't mean that they are doing things that are doing everything wrong.
Right.
What matters is we to identify within an organization what are the ambitions, where are they, where they want to be, and what's the gap
Correct.
between the two in terms of organization to make it happen.
Right.
You don't
Right.
have to go from where you are and try to become the best within the next 12 months. That's useless. What
Right.
is important is to identify from a business perspective, from
Got it.
a company, where you
Got it.
want to be in
Right.
12 months. And
Right.
then shape your organization and ultimately your product organization
Yeah.
to be able to reach that goal.
Okay.
And it might just be about doing a baby step, or might be about not changing anything now,
Correct.
or it might be about changing a lot. And that will define the effort that you will put on the
Right.
table to make it happen.
Right. Right.
And that's really changed my perspective because now we're working with a lot of bigger companies, and sometimes it's true. So they have some practice of like what the fuck are happening, but I also see a lot of things that are doing much better than
Yeah.
startups.
Yeah.
No, well,
I
give you
think
concrete.
understanding has also been because there's a lot of things that has been also documented in last 10 years when it comes to product management as well, right? Because we have seen a lot of growth where product pillar has become a lot more mature, because of which people are also getting educated. Even when someone is doing, let's say, a startup going for 0 to 1 or 1 to 100, they know like, okay, these are some of the things that are already out there which we can repeat in some sense, right? So I feel like there's a lot of education has also been happening from last 10 years, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think there are some great product people everywhere,
Correct.
and even large, but sometimes they don't have that functioning. But there is also a lot of crappy people, really bad people in startups and scale up.
Right.
So what I really believe that it's really important to really look at the organization first and really look at what is working, what isn't working, what do you want to reach, and what you should change to reach your goals. And really be pragmatical about that, because that will help you to define what is the best product organization, what is the best product organization for your organization, for your company.
True.
It's not about the recipe that would come from somewhere else, because
Of course,
there is one thing to move, is the people. You have people that another company doesn't have. And product management is first and utmost about people.
Yep.
It's people over processes and over tools.
For sure.
So it's useless to try to change the way you work if you don't adapt it to your people. And that's really important.
No, perfect. I think this was an amazing chat for sure. This is basically my last question in that sense. And if there's anything that you would love to give an advice to anyone who is, let's say, jumping onto product management right now, like he's sitting and sort of, the person is sitting and sort of, looking at through the world of product management, what is that one suggestion that you would love to give to them?
That's a good one. I would say invest in yourself and try to learn a bit every day, and take that knowledge from multiple sources. Don't only look at podcasts and blog posts, but also look at more, let's say, I would say hard knowledge. So product management ultimately is a practice that just bases foundation on sociology, psychology, and analytics, and you must understand what is behind that in order to develop your product management practice.
Correct.
So if you want to do the interview, just Google online how to do semi-guided interviews or type qualitative research and interviews qualitative research, and then you will realize that there are a very different spectrum of content available that could go much more deeper into what it is about, rather than just typing how to do interviews as a product manager. That makes a whole difference into your personal development.
Right. The idea is to go and practically do something rather than you reading it, because there would be like different methods to achieve the different things around there, right?
I think the idea is really to go and take the information from the true source and not things that have been pre-digested by someone else.
True.
Because you can go,
because it has Go ahead.
You have product managers. They can tell you how to do an interview and how to do how to interview customers.
Right.
But you won't learn much.
Yeah.
So you may just repeat the same mistake as they do. Correct. Whereas if you go into more academical research and look about sociology books, and you start reading those, that's the foundation. That's the truth, and that's the one everyone should learn about as a product manager.
Right. No, I think this is you just nailed it with the idea that, like every blog post would be different because they have their own method, because they were chasing for a different answer altogether. So it's basically their journey, that what they have documented, not the method of how they actually did it, right? So because the methods has its own foundation, it can come from, different backgrounds altogether. It doesn't have to be just product management in general. Like, for example, shadowing as a thing is something that even like different sort of genre of people also do, right? It's not like it's coming from product management. It has been adopted from a different work altogether, right?
Yeah. So, for example, when you do talk about shadowing, it's a qualitative research technique. It has been well developed, and indeed, you may read a couple of blog posts that talk about shadowing, but it won't tell you how to do it in a scientific way.
Yes.
But if you just Google qualitative research shadowing techniques, then you'll discover a different type of content that will really help you to understand what it is, how to do it, and then you can apply it on your own way. Because ultimately, that's what good product managers do. It's just that they don't talk about it.
Interesting. Yep. Thanks a lot, Timoté. I think this was an amazing podcast that we had. Just would love to ask, what did you feel about this podcast, and did you love the show? And also, like, how did you feel about this whole interview? And can you just tell our listeners about why should they listen to this?
Yeah, but first, thanks a lot for the invitation and for the talk. I think it's really interesting.
For sure.
I like the approach because it helps to cover different topics and develop a bit of serendipity around
Right.
product management. I understand it's also sometimes a challenge for you because you have to be able to jump into who I am, what I do, and try to adapt with that.
Yeah.
So big big congrat for you.
I think with this podcast now, I have come to a method where 30 minutes I just want to know the person as if I just met you in a party, right? And then I'm just talking to you like, okay, what do you do? What are some of the things that like just go deeper into that? But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then what I like and what should people remember from this talk, if I have to remember what we addressed during this year, is that
Sure.
there is many way to reach product management, to become a product manager.
For sure.
Certainly different now than it was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Startups is an interesting place to start,
Yeah.
but it's a dangerous one.
Hmm.
I would really recommend to first try to step in and join a very tier one, I would say, company that have outstanding product management practice,
Right.
and it would be big enough to have a internal training program,
Correct.
or an associate program, whatever.
Right.
And if you can't join one of those, then eventually go into a startup. But be careful and keep in mind that you'll most probably be alone. So it will depend on you, on what you will do to become a good product manager.
Right. Right. Yep. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again for joining in.
Thank you
And
too.
and see you next time then.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks a lot, Anna.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye-bye. Bye.